morning of my wedding felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Terrifying, exhilarating, irreversible. My dress fit perfectly, the veil catching sunlight like a net of stars. My mother fussed with my hair. My father squeezed my hand, whispered, "You're ready." For the first time in years, I believed it. The venue was a dream. Rows of white chairs, lilies lining the aisle, candles glowing in tall glass holders. Friends whispered with excitement. His family sat proudly at the front, smiling as though they already owned me. And then there was him, my groom. Handsome, radiant, nervous in a charming way. When I caught his eye at the altar, the fear in my chest loosened. This was it, our clean slate, our forever. The minister's voice filled the air. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." The world slowed, every word deliberate, heavy with promise. I felt my future locking into place. Then the doors creaked open. Every head turned. She walked in wearing white, not ivory, not cream. White, deliberate and defiant. In her arms, a child. The murmur began instantly, like bees buzzing through the chapel. She didn't hesitate. She didn't apologize. Her heels clicked against the stone floor as she moved down the aisle, her voice ringing out clear. "I'm his mistress, and this is his child." The room imploded. Gasps, whispers, a stunned silence broken by the crash of someone's program hitting the floor. My stomach twisted, my throat closed, the flowers blurred before my eyes. It was supposed to be the beginning of my marriage. Instead, it became the funeral for everything I thought I knew. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd misheard her. My ears rang, my body numb, my mind begging for a softer version of the words. Mistress, child, the kind of thing that happened in trashy tabloids, not in the middle of my wedding aisle. But then she held the baby higher, turning so the guests could see his face. A little boy with the same eyes as the man waiting at the altar. My groom, my future, stared at the ground, his jaw tight, his color gone. "No," I whispered, shaking my head. "This isn't real." She reached into her bag and pulled out a stack of papers, photos slipping onto the floor. A birth certificate. His name printed clearly in black ink, impossible to deny. Then worse. Pictures. Him kissing her belly while she was pregnant. Him holding the newborn in a hospital bed. Pride blazing in his eyes. Messages scrawled across the phone screen. His promises, his declarations. "I told him I wouldn't ruin today," she said, her voice cutting through the silence. But he left me no choice. He wouldn't claim us, not publicly. So here we are. My chest constricted, the walls pressing in. All around me the whispers started, his relatives shifting uncomfortably, my friends' faces pale with pity. My father's hand gripped the back of the pew so hard his knuckles went white. I looked at him, my groom. "Say something," his lips parted, trembling. "It was before us. Complicated. You have to understand." "Before us?" My voice cracked. "We've been together 3 years. She said the child is 2. His face betrayed him. Panic. Shame. The kind of silence that confirmed everything. The mistress smirked, cruel and victorious. "Before you? Try last night." A collective gasp surged through the chapel. My heart stopped. "What?" My voice was barely a whisper. She pulled out her phone, swiping to a message thread, holding it up like a trophy. Texts time-stamped only hours before the ceremony. His words, "One last time. I promise after tomorrow, things will change." The ground gave way beneath me. The humiliation was a flood, hot, choking, unstoppable. My gown, my flowers, my vows, all of it mocked me, proof of how deeply I'd been duped. I could feel the pity radiating off the guests, like 100 spotlights on my shame. And worse than the rage at him was the rage at myself. How many late nights had I excused as work? How many vague explanations had I swallowed because love taught me to trust? The red flags had been there, fluttering like warnings in the wind. I had folded them neatly, packed them away, called them love. Now, with everyone watching, the truth cut me open. He hadn't just betrayed me. He had humiliated me, gutted me, used me. And the betrayal wasn't years old. It was hours. The night before my wedding, while I rehearsed my vows in the mirror, He was in her bed. I could feel the veil slipping off my head, heavy and suffocating, as I realized this wasn't the beginning of a marriage. It was the exposure of a lie that had never ended. The chapel unraveled into chaos. Gasps had turned into shouts, whispers into open arguments. My relatives demanded she leave. His family tried to shield him, hissing excuses. This isn't the place, this isn't the time. But the mistress didn't move. She stood her ground, her child balanced on her hip like evidence, her chin lifted with the confidence of someone who knew she had already won. "You think I came here to embarrass you?" she shouted over the rising voices. "I came here because he refuses to acknowledge his son, our son. Not in private, not in public, not anywhere. And today he's about to pretend I don't exist, that we don't exist. I won't let that happen." All eyes turned to the groom. He opened his mouth, stammered, then shut it again. His hands shook, his face pale as parchment. "Say it," she pressed. "Tell them who he is. Tell them he's yours." The baby squirmed, let out a soft cry. The sound shattered something in me. Finally, his voice cracked through the noise. "Yes, he's mine." The room stilled for a moment, and then the uproar began again, louder, uglier. I stumbled back, my veil tangling in the pews, as if distance could mute the humiliation. My father looked ready to lunge at him, but my mother clutched his arm, her eyes sharp with shame. I wanted to scream, to demand answers, to claw at the smug smile stretching across the mistress's face. Instead, I asked the question that burned hottest. How? How could you afford all this, supporting her, when you told me we were saving? Every time I asked about the wedding fund, you said, "Don't worry, I've got it covered." His face twisted, but the truth came out anyway. I was supporting them. With that money, I didn't know what else to do. The words hit like a blade. Every corner I cut, every sacrifice I made for our future, the trips I skipped, the overtime I worked, none of it went into our life together. It went to hers, to them, to keep another woman's roof over her head and another child in diapers. My vision blurred with fury. I wasn't just betrayed, I was robbed. That's when I noticed it. Movement in the corner, guests whispering urgently. A bridesmaid, my closest friend, showing someone her phone screen, a screenshot, a thread of texts. She caught my eye, her face pale, and hurried over. "Don't collapse," she whispered, sliding the phone into my hand. "You need to see this." I scrolled. Another woman, different name, different photos, same man. The texts were unmistakable, him arranging meetups, promising her the same words he gave me, gave Mistress number 1. "I'll leave her soon. You're the one I really want." My stomach flipped. "Who is she?" The bridesmaid's voice trembled. "A coworker. She's been bragging to people at the office. Said he was going to marry her." I almost laughed. An ugly, cracked laugh, because it was too absurd, too grotesque. Here I was, in a white dress, vows unsaid, and there was already another woman waiting in the wings. The mistress saw my face pale and smirked. "Oh, you found out about her then?" Gasps surged again. "You knew?" I spat. Of course I knew. She adjusted her grip on the baby. "Why do you think I came today? Not for you, for her. She was planning to show up too, but I wasn't going to let her steal my moment. My son deserves to be first." The words clawed through me. She wasn't there to save me. She wasn't there for justice. She was there to stake her claim, to secure her child's future before the next mistress tried to. The walls of the chapel seemed to close in, the air hot with the weight of it all. My groom wasn't a man torn between two women, as I'd once imagined in my darkest fears. He wasn't even a man torn between 3. He was a juggler, a liar, a parasite who built his entire life on spinning plates, making each of us believe we were the one, while he divided his time, his money, his words like counterfeit coins. I wasn't betrayed because I wasn't enough. I was betrayed because he was never anyone's. The rage boiled up, no longer just humiliation, but clarity. I wasn't a bride who lost her groom. I was a woman who had just watched her illusions burn to ash in front of every person she loved. And as the shouting echoed through the chapel, one truth hit harder than the rest. I had never been the one. I was only ever one of many. The guests had scattered like debris after a storm. Some slipped out quietly, shame in their eyes, while others lingered in small clusters, whispering, dissecting, waiting for more wreckage to unfold. The chapel smelled of sweat and wilted flowers, and my dress dragged heavy with dust and humiliation. He found me in the back room, the one meant for quiet prayers before vows. His tie was loose, his eyes bloodshot, his jaw clenched as though he were holding himself together with the last scraps of pride. "Listen," he started, his voice rough. "We can still go through with it." I laughed, sharp, jagged, humorless. Go through with what? The circus out there? The humiliation? You think I'll still marry you after this? He stepped closer, desperation leaking through his calm. For appearances. Just say the words, sign the papers. We can figure it out later. No one has to know everything. Appearances? My voice cracked, rising. Do you hear yourself? You torched my life in front of everyone I love, and you think this is about appearances? He reached for me. I pulled back. My hands shook, but my rage steadied my voice. How many? He blinked. What? How many women? How many beds? How many promises? How many lies? Tell me. His silence was an answer. His eyes flickered, darting away, searching for an escape. I pressed harder, voice low and venomous. 1, 2, 3, more. Still silence. His jaw worked, but no words came. The truth wasn't a number. It was infinity. The room spun. The weight of it crushed me, but I pushed forward. You never loved me. Not really. Did you? Finally, he spoke, his voice small. I cared. I did. But love doesn't pay the bills, doesn't keep the right doors open. I froze. What are you talking about? That's when I saw it, the envelope sticking out of his jacket pocket. Thick, official, stamped with a solicitor's crest. My pulse thudded as I snatched it before he could react. Don't, he barked, but I was already tearing it open. Inside, legal documents. His signature scrawled across the bottom. The child's name, his son's name, listed clearly. Acknowledgement of paternity, designation of inheritance. My vision blurred. You already? My voice broke. You already signed this? He swallowed, shame and arrogance fighting on his face. It was the right thing to do. The right thing, I spat. The right thing would have been to tell me before I walked down the aisle. The right thing would have been not to stand at that altar pretending to promise me forever while you were setting up your legacy with someone else. His voice hardened. You don't understand. I needed this marriage, not for love, for security, respectability, my career, my family's name. My stomach turned. So what was I to you? A prop? A shield to hide behind while you played house with everyone else? He didn't answer. He didn't need to. The truth settled over me like ice. He wasn't planning a marriage. He was planning an arrangement. A wife polished enough to stand beside him in photos, obedient enough to smile through the lies, respectable enough to anchor his double life. The mistress and her child weren't obstacles. They were already secured. The legal papers proved it. They were his heirs, his blood, his insurance. And me? I was supposed to be the ribbon on top of his facade. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I stood straighter, my dress heavy but my voice sharp. You didn't just betray me, you erased me. You planned a future where I was nothing but decoration. He reached for me again, pleading now. Please, it's not too late. We can still make this work. For appearances, for us. I slapped his hand away. There is no us. There never was. You built this whole thing out of lies, and I let myself believe it was love. The papers trembled in my hands, but my voice didn't. I won't be your mask. I won't be your arrangement. I'd rather walk away in shame than stand beside you in chains. His face collapsed then. Rage, fear, regret, all tangled into one. But I didn't wait for more excuses. I opened the door, stepped back into the wreckage of the chapel, and left him behind with his documents, his child, his empire of lies. I wasn't his bride, I was his cover story. And I refused to play that part anymore. I walked out of the chapel into the sharp light of afternoon, my dress heavy with dust, the train catching on gravel and mud. Guests stood outside in clusters, their eyes tracking me with pity, curiosity, whispers I refused to hear. I didn't stop. I didn't turn back. Each step away felt like tearing stitches, painful but necessary. For years, I thought this day would mark the beginning of my life. The truth was, it saved me from it. I hadn't lost a husband. I had dodged a life sentence with a man who never truly belonged to anyone. There's grief in betrayal, yes, but there's also clarity. Love can blind you, but exposure burns away the lies until all that's left is truth. And sometimes, that truth sets you free in the ugliest way possible. I loosened the veil from my hair, let it slip from my fingers onto the dirt, and lifted my chin. He wasn't mine to lose. He never was. And as I kept walking, the sting turned into strength. Sometimes the wedding isn't the start of a marriage, it's the funeral for your illusions. And mine had just been laid to rest.